In the small, mist-covered town of Thornfield, there stood an ancient colonial estate that everyone knew by name, but few dared to approach. It was called the Hawthorne Mansion, a relic of another era, its tall windows shuttered, its once grand walls cracked and crumbling under the weight of time. For decades it had been abandoned, left to the mercy of storms, creeping ivy, and whispered tales that wrapped around it like a second skin. To the people of Thornfield, the mansion was not simply a ruin. It was a vessel of shadows, a stage for apparitions, and the heart of a folklore that had haunted generations. Children were warned never to play near its gates, and elders crossed themselves when its silhouette appeared on the horizon at dusk. The stories all told the same thing. The spirits of the Hawthorne family had never left. Their restless figures were said to drift endlessly through the decaying corridors, trapped between life and death, forever circling the rooms where they once laughed, wept, and lived. Some villagers claimed to have heard faint voices carried by the night wind, while others swore they had seen pale faces flicker in the broken glass of the windows. The mansion had become less a house and more a boundary, between the living and the dead, between memory and eternity. Among those who heard these tales was Clara, a young woman whose fascination with the unseen had shaped her life. Clara was a budding paranormal researcher, her notebooks filled with accounts of haunted places, her shelves stacked with books on folklore and the afterlife. The stories of the Hawthorne Mansion captured her imagination more strongly than any other. She felt a pull, as though some invisible hand were urging her to uncover what lay hidden beneath layers of dust and sorrow. Her curiosity was not reckless thrill-seeking. She believed that spirits, if they lingered, carried truths worth listening to. So it was decided Clara would spend a night inside the mansion. She planned carefully, equipping herself with cameras that could capture even the faintest flicker of light, sound recorders tuned to pick up whispers beyond human hearing, and motion sensors designed to detect the slightest disturbances. She chose her night deliberately, the new moon, when the sky would be an inky void, for the townsfolk said that on nights of deepest darkness, the mansion stirred most violently. When Clara crossed the threshold, the air inside was heavy, thick with age and silence. The mansion was undeniably ruined. Its wallpaper curled from the walls, chandeliers sagged under cobwebs, and the grand staircase seemed to groan with every step she took. Yet, despite its decay, there lingered a melancholic beauty. She could almost see the outlines of its former glory. Women in satin gowns drifting through candlelit halls, the low hum of conversation, and the polished glow of ballroom floors. As she explored deeper, her nerves tightened. She began to feel the unmistakable sensation of being watched. The shadows themselves seemed to breathe. Then came the signs, at first so faint she thought them tricks of her mind. A whisper, so soft it might have been the rustle of leaves. Footsteps above her, measured and deliberate, though the upper floors were long abandoned. And then, unmistakably, the sound of a piano. Fragile, distant notes floated through the silence, weaving a melody that was both mournful and impossibly beautiful. Drawn by the music, Clara followed the sound to a grand ballroom. Dust cloaked the floor like a faded carpet, and broken glass glittered faintly in the corners. The air here was colder, charged with something she could not explain. The melody swelled, filling the room with sorrow. And then she saw her. A figure shimmered into existence by the piano, a woman dressed in an elegant period gown, her face pale and luminous, her hands gliding gracefully across the keys. Her expression was carved from grief itself, her eyes lost in an ocean of despair. Clara froze, every instinct telling her to run, yet another part of her, the part that had brought her here, kept her rooted. Compassion outweighed fear. She could not flee from such pain. Summoning courage, Clara spoke aloud, her voice trembling but steady. She asked who the woman was, what had kept her bound to this place. The air shifted, and the piano's melody seemed to answer. Whispered fragments wove together with the music, carrying words not spoken but felt. The apparition revealed herself as Elisabeth Hawthorne, the last living heir of the family, whose heart had been broken beyond repair. She told of a love lost under circumstances shrouded in mystery, a tragedy so devastating that even death had not released her sorrow. The night deepened as Clara listened, documenting everything with her recorders. Hours passed, yet she felt as though time itself had stilled within those walls. Elisabeth's story was not only of personal grief, but of betrayal, of secrets buried within the Hawthorne lineage. As dawn approached, the final chord of the piano rang out like a sigh, and Elisabeth's form dissolved into the gray light of morning. For the first time in decades, the mansion seemed to exhale, as though some of its burden had lifted. Clara left that morning shaken, her heart heavy with empathy, and her mind ablaze with questions. She spent the following months immersed in research, scouring archives, interviewing descendants of those who had once known the Hawthornes, and piecing together fragments of the truth. Slowly, a tragic picture emerged, of love denied, of deception woven into the fabric of the family, and a curse that tethered their souls to the decaying mansion. With determination, Clara sought a way to release them. She prepared a ritual of remembrance and release, weaving together elements of tradition, history, and compassion. On the chosen night, she returned to the mansion. Witnesses later said they saw the entire house glow with an otherworldly light, its windows flickering with warmth as though it had come alive again. Laughter, music, and voices long silent filled the air, echoing through Thornfield like a celebration. And then, as the ritual ended, silence returned, but it was not the oppressive silence of before. It was the calm of peace restored. From that night onward, the Hawthorne Mansion stood as more than a ruin. It became a symbol, not of fear, but of closure and healing. No further apparitions were ever reported, but the townspeople often spoke of that night of light and music, and of Clara, who had dared to listen to the forgotten. The house remained quiet, dignified in its stillness, and the tale of the Hawthornes lived on, carried in whispers, not of dread, but of remembrance. Even as the years passed, the people of Thornfield never forgot. They told their children about the mansion, about the broken-hearted Elisabeth, and about the young woman who brought peace to the restless. The Hawthorne Mansion, once a place of shadows, became a resting place of memory, where echoes of the past were not feared, but honored, and where silence meant at last release.